Most of you who actually follow me will probably know that I was very, very heavily invested in obviously what was happening to the fishing communities post Brexit, and even what they were saying before Brexit as well. Um, I said, as a Remainer back then, this is going to really heavily affect the British fishing industry. You look at where most of their catches get sent, it's to Europe, because the plain simple fact is we in the UK do not eat fish. I've said this before. The most popular fish product um, is actually bird's eye fish fingers. That is like our most popular fish product here in the UK. It's not like bits of cod or anything like that. It's bird's eye fish fingers. That is our most popular fish product because the simple, plain fact is we just do not eat fish. We just do not. Where in Europe, they do. The Europeans eat a lot more fish than we do. We in the UK have really eat more chicken and beef than we do fish. And this is just a simple economic reality. And I was saying this again during the referendum and after the referendum. This is just the simple economic reality. And yet lots of fishing for leave people seem to ignore the fact that they used to sell their catch on into the EU more than they did the UK. So why on earth are you trying to push for changes in the law which would negatively affect you? You know exactly what it will be like when we became a third country. Even for those people who were fishing for leavers, who were saying, "Oh, it's okay because we'll remain in the single market and customs union. It'll be fine." If we had remained in the single market and customs union, then yes, you would probably be fine. However, that's not the Brexit that you got. So here we are, shall we say. So let's deal into and catch up really with what's been happening in some of the fishing industry and what has unfortunately happened to one family here. So before we go diving into this article, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So, on with the show. So, this comes from the East Anglia Bylines with the title, Brexit has catastrophically wiped out decades of family oyster businesses with Europe. So, Tom here, as you can see, a picture of him, is an 8th generation of the Hayward family, going back to the 1700s to cultivate oysters in the Mersey, with an expansion of the oyster business into Europe have abruptly ended on December the 31st, 2020, thanks to all the Brexit red tape. So, my family have enjoyed a very healthy business relationship with Europe for decades. Oysters from the Mersey Isles in Essex are famous throughout the world, and Europeans especially have always sought them out. But before Brexit, our small business regularly imported oysters to Belgium, Spain, and Germany. We were also searching for customers in other European countries, such as Italy. When the referendum results were announced, we decided as a business to start scaling back our scales into Europe, as we could not see how the healthy customer base we had could be sustained. The UK severing its ties with the EU would only create a massive and expensive trade barriers that were not suitable for exporting food products. Before Brexit, we were trying to build up our export market into Europe to account for at least 50% of our turnover. By 2019, we had reduced it to just 8% of our turnover. So that is a massive amount of money to lose. I've said this before when we've gone over not only just fishing companies like this, but other companies that have lost this turnover from Europe. That's going to have an effect on a business. Like, that amount lost in a year is not sustainable. So anyway, we continue. The uncertainty of getting our oysters to customers on time, and of course the added cost of paperwork and border inspections, meant that our margins would be decimated. It would not be sustainable to carry on selling to the European market. And we were not even slightly optimistic about a small amount of trade could even be maintained. And we were unfortunately right. In 2019, we had sales of over £150 million per annum with Europe. And even though we had considerably reduced our efforts with selling oysters abroad, we still do a healthy addition to our business each year. In 2021, our sales to the EU so far have amounted to £0. Brexit has not made selling oysters to the EU a little bit trickier. It has catastrophically wiped out the trade. It is also worth noting that the full impact of Brexit and the complications of business will face at customs has not even been fully implemented. For small businesses like ours trying to create an expansive market, all Brexit has done is reduce our market. I was recently contacted by the Department for International Trade, and they offered their help in exporting potential new markets outside of Europe. But the same barriers face our business still. It is not simply about finding countries outside of the EU to sell oysters to, it's also about whether those countries want oysters, or if they do, what tariffs will be placed on them. New Zealand is a good example, as it appears the UK will soon secure a trade deal. New Zealand has its own thriving oyster industry. The bluff oyster is considered to be one of the best in the world. I worked in New Zealand and the Kiwis eat a lot of oysters, and they love their own oysters a lot. And they see no reason to import British oysters when they have such a wonderful product on their very doorstep. And we've said that before. Even if you do get this, how is that going to help this business? It doesn't make any business sense to do this. It's catastrophic in so many ways how this has affected this one business. The logistics, of course, for sending our oysters to New Zealand, if we found a customer, would be costly and just impractical. Oysters are living animals, and transporting them to the other side of the world would greatly reduce their shelf life. The wonderful thing about our former relationship with Europe was that we could pack our oysters into a box, and by the next day, they were at our Belgian customer's address. Oysters need to be alive when sold. So the more days they are in transit, the greater chance they will not be alive when they reach their destination. Our prices on equality and fairness of our product, so we aim to try and get our oysters from sea to plate as quickly as humanly possible. And sending oysters to the far-flung countries is far too big a risk. There's too much potential for something to go wrong and for us to lose a lot of money in the process. But it's not all doom and gloom. As we've spent a lot of time building our domestic market in preparation for Brexit, and as I write this, we are busy as we have ever been, approximately selling 30,000 oysters every week. Our current effort to try and improve our domestic market has paid off for now, and we are extremely grateful for that. There is, of course, a but associated with that. We live in unusual times in regards to buying habits in the UK. Because of the pandemic, and therefore it is difficult to know how much of the long-term trade and how much is the bounce of people being able to get out and eat again and go on holiday. The previous 18 months have proven that business is indeed fragile, and a major event can take everything away, as it nearly did for us. If something significant happens in the UK again, our business, along with many others, is no longer a captive market, has no longer a captive European market to help us. That is the really damning reality of Brexit. And that's the unfortunate truth of where we are now. And it's not just people like Tom, who did this. It's other people, other businesses as well that are going to suffer because we used the single market as an expansion to our own business. He even says this, and lots of other businesses did this as well. They relied on that expansion of the into like the Europe as being part of their own market. It gave them extra customers. They no longer had to just rely on the UK. If there was the exact same market in France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Spain, they could go to it and sell their product with no extra hassle or no extra cost because we were in the single market customs union. We've now lost that. And that is going to affect so many companies' bottom line. And I think you're really going to start to see the effect really at the start of next year, potentially end of this year, well, probably next year as well, because lots of companies are now going to go, we've lost huge amounts of our revenue. What do we do? And unfortunately, there's an answer for that, and it's downsizing. Some companies are going to be able to adapt, other companies are not. And I've said it before, but 2022 is going to be a very, very hard year for a whole lot of people throughout this country. And there is a reason why a lot of people are saying that we're heading into a winter of discontent. So, as always, thank you very much for supporting me. Like I say, down below there are links to my Patreon page, or there's one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. And of course, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.